Whether you just started playing or played since release, Wuthering Waves combat can be quite challenging. To better understand the game's mechanics, I will guide you through the basics, some things to keep in mind, as well as some tips and tricks. If you ever need to go back to certain parts, there will be timestamps in the description. Hi, my name is Spade, and I'm at your service. Before we start off with the basics, it is important to read a character's kit. I myself have been confused many times in what and how a character functions, so reading their kit or watching a guide definitely helps a lot. I know how overwhelming these essays look, but thankfully they have an outline here that summarizes them without the jargon. Although at times I can see that they miss some important details. Alright, now that we have that out of the way, let's start with the normal attacks. Alright, so starting off with normal attacks or basic attacks is what some content creators would refer it to as. It's either your left mouse button or whatever it is on your controller. Now most characters have a 3 to 4 normal attack string, and some of them, like the rover here, have a special normal attack which requires timing, which I'll get into later on. So what I want to first define is what is a normal attack string. Sometimes you find content creators use this term. So what it basically is a sequence of consecutive basic attacks. For example, with the rover here, you have normal attack 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's his normal attack string. Now, I mentioned earlier that he has a special normal attack that has a timing required. So it'll be like this: 1, 2, 3, wait a bit, and then 4. Some of these characters you'd want to use this special normal attack as it will help you build up your Forte Circuit a lot quicker, which, I'll get into that later on. So I just showed you an example with Rover about the special normal attack. And with Zani, she also has one, so it'll be like this: 1, 2, 3, and then that's the normal attack string. If you want to do the special one, you have to do 1, 2, 3, wait a little bit, and then that's her fourth. Technically, this is her fifth. Alright, so moving on to heavy attacks, you just either hold or long press, both are the same, your normal attack button, just like this. There, that's his heavy attack. All characters have one, but not all of them use them in their rotations. Alright, so moving on to your resonance skill, it is either your E on your keyboard or whatever it is in your controller. Now I will just showcase what Zani's E is because she has a special E which I will talk about in a bit. So let me just show you what a regular E looks like. Okay, it doesn't look like that. Okay, so that's her regular E. Now let me move on to her special E. Alright, there we go. Now that we unlocked her special E, all we have to do is just hold it. And it deals more damage. Now let's, kind of get away from him. Alright, so now that we're safe, as you saw earlier, the special E deals more damage. Now that's not always the case, but I believe that the most important factor of a resonance skill is not that it just deals damage, but because it is tied to a character's Forte Circuit. Moving on to the Forte Circuit, it is the most important part of a character's kit. And the reason why is because it is the core that links or connects everything together. Maybe that's why they call it a circuit. So, the reason why it is important is because it has a lot of information that tells you how to do certain things, why you do them, and what they do. So, how you locate this Forte Circuit is it is the bar above your HP bar. As you can see, it's empty. So the way to build this is through your basic attacks and resonance skills. Right there. And for resonance skills, they build it up way more than normal attacks. So as much as possible, if you want to get your Forte Circuit up quickly, you'd want to do your resonance skills. And as you can see, by building that bar up, it unlocked her special resonance skill and gave her a buff. So that's why it is very important for a character to build this. Okay, let me just get to safety first. Leave me alone. Goodbye. Alright, so with that demonstration, you can understand why it is very important for a character to build that Forte Circuit, as it can either unlock new movesets or it can give the character buffs. Each character has their own unique way of building that Forte Circuit and what it does. So which is why I recommend you guys to either read it or watch a guide on that specific character. Alright, so moving on to your Resonance Liberation, it is either your R or again, whatever it is in your controller. So most of the time, it'll just be big damage that a character does, but sometimes, like Shorekeeper, it provides supportive capabilities. But there are other characters like Zani and Frolova here that unlock new enhanced states and deal a ton of damage. Now let's showcase for Frolova. Let me just do that. And as you can see here, it goes into her whatever state that is. So most of the time, it is just big damage. It gives supportive capabilities like healing with Shorekeeper, or it provides a enhanced state that allows a character to deal even more damage. Now let's get rid of him. Useless. Alright, so moving on to your dodging and parrying. For dodging, it is your right mouse button or it is either your shift button or whatever it is on your controller. Because again, I'm not sure about the controller buttons. So, my honest advice for both dodging and parrying is just it takes time. It takes time, it takes practice in understanding the enemy's movements as well as your own character's timing. Because each of them have their own unique timing in the way they swing their sword or whatever weapon that they're using. So for parrying, you just use your normal attack. Okay, great example. Alright, so there. So sword and broadblade users or in general close combat is a lot easier to parry. And the enemy will show you these parry cues, these parry visuals, so that it's easier for you to time them. But with rectifiers, it is a different story because rectifiers are able to do mid-range and long-range mid-range or long-range combat. So you have to time them a bit earlier than you'd normally do, like here, than a sword user. There we go. Oh my god, she died? What the okay. And he did too. But again, anyway, it just takes a lot of timing, practice, and patience in understanding the enemy's movements as well as your own characters. Alright, let's move on before it's Shorekeeper's turn. Alright, so moving on to the Concerto Energy. The Concerto Energy is located next to your Forte Circuit. It is that circle over there. Now, how you build it is through your normal attacks, resonance skills, even dodging and parrying, and I think maybe even the Resonance Liberation, it also contributes to that. So your normal attacks, your resonance skills. Let me just build it up for you guys. Alright, now that it is built up, I can switch to Zani. As you can see, Zani did her intro skill, and you can see Phoebe doing her outro skill. Now, moving on to intro and outro skills, they are just additional animations when switching into a different character. Now, most DPSs just deal damage, there isn't any other contributing factor to it. But with the more supportive characters like Phoebe, they provide a buff. As you can see here, the yellow icon that is above the Forte Circuit. I'll talk more about buffs and debuffs later on. But yeah, that is just the gist of what the Concerto Energy does and what the intro and outro skills are. Alright, so moving on to echo skills. It is either Q or whatever, again, whatever it is in your controller button. Now, the older echoes from 1.0 or the older echoes in general from Huanglong, they required you to summon them in order to gain buffs. But with the newer ones that are in Renacida, they are called Nightmare Echoes. As long as you equip them in your main slot, they already grant you the buff. However, there are some characters, like Frolova for example, that still want you to summon them because it helps them with their kit. So, there are just some exceptions. Rotations are very important as its main purpose is for the team to deal the most amount of damage and repeat it. It is similar to the string that I mentioned earlier, but it involves more actions. To simplify what a rotation is, think of it as building a beaded bracelet with each character representing different color beads. Now when you put them together, it forms a pattern. And when you tie it together, tie the ends of the string, it makes a bracelet which forms a loop. A pattern that you repeat until you defeat the enemy. Now it's not something that you have to do all the time. If you're just exploring, then it's not necessary. But if you are fighting a boss or playing an endgame mode such as the TOA or WuWa, then it helps you clear faster and more efficiently. Alright, so moving on to buffs and debuffs. As I stated earlier in one of the previous sections of the video, the buffs and debuffs are located above your Forte Circuit. They're these little hexagons that you see. The way to tell the buff and debuffs apart is that buffs have green arrows that are pointing upward, and debuffs have red arrows that are pointing downward. Now, these buffs and debuffs do run out of time and run out of stacks. So the way to tell that is you can see that the color that is filling up this hexagon is reducing. So that is showing you the amount of time left that it has. And then for stacks, it has the number right below it. I believe it's in the bottom right. And then it will reduce over time. It will go from 10, 9, 8, and so on and so on. Alright, so let's move on to negative status effects, or DOT, damage over time. This is not to be confused with other game mechanics such as elemental reactions from Genshin, because these are not elemental reactions. So all elements are able to have these negative status effects, but there are only a few number of characters that are able to apply them to enemies, such as Phoebe over here, Chacona as well, but even Cardathea and Zani, Spectral Rover, and Arrow Rover are able to apply those as well. Now let me just apply them to this boss over here. As you can see, those hexagons below the enemy's health, that is what we call the Spectral Frazzle. That is one of the negative status effects. Two characters currently want these effects on an enemy so that they can deal more damage, and these characters are Zani and Cardathea. So as you can see here, even Cardathea is able to apply a little bit on her own. Let's move on to enemy toughness bar. So it is the white bar below the enemy's health. All you have to do is you just chip it away. The moves that chip away these the most is your intro and outro skills. As you see, that is a big chunk of toughness bar gone. So there you go. It immobilizes the enemy and it allows you to do your rotations a lot easier without getting hit. Now, I'm not sure if it also allows you to do more damage that I'm not aware of, but it just immobilizes the enemy. Alright, so moving on to my tips and tricks. The first tip that I would want to share with y'all is practice your rotations and break them into parts. Now you can try these outside of combat, for example, with my Zani over here. And then I switch to Phoebe, put her in her Spectral Frazzle state and do all of these things. You know, just imagine I am facing an enemy, right? But if you want to do these in combat and get a good amount of practice in, what I can suggest you guys is to switch your weapons to a weapon that is level 1. Now, I did get this from Saint Todas, like way back before, and it does help to get enough practice out of an enemy without killing it right away. Alright, so moving on to another trick that I have is double intro skills. Now what you have to do is build up your Concerto Energy, not all the way. As you can see here, it's not filled up yet. Switch to a different character, build up their own Concerto Energy. Now that I have it built up, I can switch to Phoebe. And because the outro skill also filled up the Concerto Energy, I can immediately switch to Zani, and now she gets all of the buffs that she needs from Shorekeeper and Phoebe. But again, it is not exactly practical to apply it to all of your rotations. It's just something cool that I learned. Alright, and the last thing I want to share is food buffs. Now, food buffs allow you to have easier fights. Now, I know they cannot be used for endgame modes like TOA and WuWa, but I'm sure they can be used for hologram fights because it is happening in the overworld. And the way to get these food buffs, or just the food in general, is you can just purchase them in the shop, right? These allow you to have more healing bonus for survivability and gives you more flight stamina for exploration and so on and so on. And you can buy recipes. Now, I don't know what these do, but I'm sure they provide you a buff that is helpful for you when you fight or explore. So that's the last tip that I want to share. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope this guide is able to help you in some way, you know, whether you are a beginner or a person or just a player that just wants to improve on your combat skills in Wuthering Waves. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. And if I ever missed something, please comment down below so that I'm, you know, informed and I can be more knowledgeable and have a better understanding of these mechanics that Wuthering Waves has, and obviously for other people as well. So yeah, as always, I would really appreciate it if you guys would like and subscribe this channel. I blanked out there for a little bit, but yeah, I'd really appreciate it if you guys could like and subscribe. I have a Discord server down below in the description, so if you want to join and, you know, just ask me a couple questions or just interact with, you know, other people, I would really appreciate it if you join. And I do stream these on Twitch as well, so I'd also I'd also really appreciate it if you could follow me over there as well. Have a quick chat with me live, so I'd really appreciate that. All right, that's all from me. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.